Hi, everyone. Welcome to my talk on healthy architecture, integrating and operationalizing EDA within LifeWorks. Before I dive in, I actually want to start with a disclaimer. I'm actually wondering if these might become more common in the future. With the rise of ChatGPT generating content nowadays, I just wanted to clarify that no large language models such as ChatGPT were used in the making of this presentation. All views and potential hallucinations expressed therein are strictly my own. So who am I? My name is Mike Spendlove. I'm VP of Product Development Engineering, formerly of LifeWorks, and now part of TELUS Health. I've been working in the tech industry close to 20 years across the startup, enterprise, and tech consulting worlds. I've in fact worked overseas also in the medical humanitarian sector, so I'm very passionate about the potential for technology to improve lives and health outcomes globally. Now, historically, LifeWorks focused on building solutions to support employees' physical, mental, social, and financial well-being, with millions of users across 160 countries and core operations in Canada, the US, the UK and Ireland, and Australia. Now part of TELUS Health, since last fall, our product and engineering teams are continuing to focus on building best-in-class employer solutions for well-being, mental health, telemedicine, and absence and disability management. Outside of these, TELUS Health also has numerous innovative health products focused on consumers, health authorities, insurers, and healthcare providers, including pharmacies, and our collaborative health record and other EMR technologies. For those of you outside of Canada, you may not have heard of TELUS, but TELUS is one of the largest mobile operators in Canada with 18 million customer connections, covering wireless, voice, video, security, and more. Along with its strong social commitment, TELUS has been expanding into some pretty exciting new directions, including our sister organization, TELUS Agriculture, who gave a great presentation at the EDA Summit last year, and TELUS International, which is another member of the family, which focuses in call center technology and digital consulting. So now kind of diving into the heart of things, for several years, LifeWorks ran a mental health index based on interviews with thousands of workers across 4 countries and a range of employers, not just our own clients. And that mental health index was quoted in the news, oftentimes led to some policy decisions and so on. And over the last few years, evidence has been undeniable that the pandemic, COVID-19, has had a long and lasting negative impact on mental health of employees. The ongoing stress from COVID-19 has kept people feeling powerless and has aggravated our fight or flight response, leading to increased anxiety, exhaustion, and feeling on edge. You can see here in our index that we are trending in Canada, generally around 75. If someone's in the 80 to 100 range, they're in very good spirits. If someone's more like 50, then they're much more of a concern. So you can see that the average dropping from 75 down to the mid or lower 60s was a real impact from COVID, and really hasn't improved tremendously since there. United States and other countries also have similar trends to this, not exactly, but quite similar. And so as a result, this has led to some really, really concerning consequences. So first up, there was about 12% of the working population that was at high risk of mental health issues prior to the pandemic. This was back in 2019. But since the pandemic, that's risen to 34%. That's resulted in some really concerning behaviors. So a fourfold increase in high-risk drinking, for example. And so as a result, we know that also from similar research that despite all of these concerns, that providing employers with tools and support to help their employees can actually make a positive difference. So the workplace can not only stabilize someone's mental health, but can actually improve it in the long run. And so that's why LifeWorks really focused on building a total mental health product, which just got released this year. And EDA was a pretty critical technology to help us achieve that. So why did we ultimately choose event-driven architecture as a solution? So most of us are technical here. I want to start with some of the technical reasons. So first up, we wanted to make sure that any type of messaging or event handling across your systems was secure, reliable, efficient, and high performance. And secondly, we came from a background, like many companies out there, of acquisition. And so we had smaller companies using smaller parts of our company, using AWS, and others were using Azure, for example. And so we needed a system to help us work across multiple different clouds, across multiple different platforms, to really reduce the number of point-to-point connections and build, one cohesive system, and also enable future expansion. This is especially important as we work with our new partners in TELUS Health. But there's also business reasons there too. EDA enables all kinds of speed advantages, especially in more complex infrastructures. And our research shows, again, that the sooner you can respond to someone who reaches out for help for a mental health issue, minutes matter, hours matter, days definitely matter. And so making sure that we can respond quickly, get people booked into an appointment with a provider, either in person or over video as quickly as possible. But secondly, hey, we also work closely with CHRO or other HR administrators within our client organizations. And we need to make sure that we're getting punctual data to them around trends in their workforce that we're noticing, through our services. And so, being able to report and say, hey, there's a real lack in a good quality sleep, for example, in a particular group, or we're concerned about increased anxieties, around maybe a Black Friday deadline, for example, internally. In addition, obviously the business is very excited about the potential of EDA to help us with product agility, extensibility, and even, assist with reporting and being able to plug into other data solutions. So how did we end up with, Solace in particular? We actually, in fact, started our EDA journey a few years ago. We looked at bringing in Kafka to help with backend integration of multiple different systems feeding to a new HR system. And so, we found that to be generally, pretty reliable, pretty performant. But once we looked at the complexity, the complexity of our new infrastructure, as we approach this new mental health product, we really started to look further afield and had some good advice around investigating Solace. So we went through a long process, tested out, a number of, proofs of concept, proofs of architecture to really validate our assumptions. And we really came away with, a few takeaways. First up is, Solace has a really strong point of view on tooling. The admin tools are quite powerful. They had a great event designer and catalog, which they've just enhanced, and even guidance around things like topic conventions, topic governance was definitely much stronger than we had seen with other products. Dynamic message routing, especially when we were working with multiple different cloud providers, we really wanted to reduce cloud egress and make sure that we weren't spamming messages to every single broker across our mesh. Solace has wide support for a variety of different protocols, so SMF, MQTT, REST. They're not interchangeable. There are trade-offs between each. So strongly recommend that any type of proof of concept you do prior to endorsing and working with a particular technology, investigate these different protocols. They do have some edge cases and small trade-offs. Solace also came with great out-of-the-box integration with Datadog. And on top of all that, Solace was an established company, 20-year history, 20-plus-year history, and they really met all of our necessary requirements for compliance. We have strict data residency requirements, private connectivity, and again, supporting multiple cloud providers. To give you an example around how data residency played into our topic conventions is, this is just an example, but you can use geographic regions to actually send messages between particular brokers, and ensure that messages, for example, stay only in North America or only in a particular country in Europe. Or you can always still leverage a global mesh network to send a message out to all brokers, say for things like maybe reference data or things which weren't subject to the same sort of constraints as any type of client or provider data. Here's an example diagram just kind of showing how we would roll out our mesh network, including brokers and all of our main operating centers across multiple different clouds. Again, we've rolled this out to production. It's been very reliable, and we're quite happy with it. But in addition to the technical concerns around EDA, it's really important to consider the operational concerns, because it's more than just a technology. It's something that has an impact on multiple different teams across your product development organization. So first up, it really demands strong EA maturity. You cannot really get by and set the standards you need to get the most out of EDA without proper processes like architecture decision records. We in fact formed an EDA platform team to focus on setting standards across the board. That included things like the dead letter queue or dead message queue, event design, event versioning, topic governance, topic conventions, and there's a number of other topics in there which need to be considered and weighed and discussed before establishing those standards. Secondly, we really had to rethink our support of any more complicated systems now, including EDA. So we're using multiple different clouds. We're using Solace. We're using various other technologies in there too. So first up, we started with looking at our tooling. So establishing a single pane of glass for tracing and observability across all of our services. So if a request failed, we'd have to know exactly where it failed. Looking at consistent correlation IDs and so on too has been something that we've really invested a lot of time in. And secondly, even the structure of our support team. So we have a dedicated technical support team focused on integration now, with skills across all these different clouds and with experience even in EDA, so that they're able to help diagnose, debug, triage any issues which come in, which could potentially fall between the cracks between these systems. It's hard not to emphasize security, at every stage, in every aspect of the design. So for us, that meant private connectivity between clouds. Also ensuring that, like, we used payroll encryption and using our own keys and so on too. So just maximum level of security across the board. And even across groups that you wouldn't normally think to get involved. So user experience, product management, like think async is definitely a sort of mantra you should be repeating, and involving everyone, especially in things like event storming workshops. Those were incredibly valuable to help us ensure that we understood boundaries between different systems, that we were all in alignment around our business entities and so on too, and around responsibilities of different services and different teams. This figured also into our QA strategy. So we really had to think broader, where we were doing automated, API and end-to-end testing on a regular basis on every check-in, and also, on a nightly basis to make sure that we were, tracking any type of failure in resilience, across our stack. And even looking at how do you level up developers? Do you run some type of hackathon? Do you get them hands-on with EDA in a kind of lower risk sandbox first? And so, thinking about how we, set up permissions and set up our workspaces in order to give, developers a chance to get familiar with this technology. All these things kind of factored into the success of EDA. But we did do it. Like, if I could just leave with one final thought, hopefully you found this presentation useful. We rolled it out to production, and we're very happy with the outcome. But I will say EDA is just more than just a new technology. It's a journey for your whole product organization, but it can be quite valuable for us. It's really served and benefited our teams. It's benefited our clients, and most importantly, it's benefited those millions of members that depend on this for support when they reach out for help. Thanks so much.